Good morning and welcome to this fourth Connect University session on CEF Digital. I am Rachele Civitareale and I will be moderating this session. As I said, this is our fourth session on CEF Digital. The first one took place on the 19th of February and gave a general overview of the program. The second one, which took place on the 14th of March, focused on 5G deployment. And the third one took place on the 30th of April and analyzed the critical role of backbones in the EU and worldwide. Today, we will focus on 5G deployment again, but this time from an expert's perspective. This session was requested by the audience during our last session on 5G, and I hope it will satisfy the expectations. The structure will be slightly different this time as it will include a panel discussion moderated by an external speaker, but I will give further details in a minute. Before that, I want to start by giving a short background on the Connect University sessions in general, in case some of you are not familiar with them yet. They are part of the knowledge sharing flagship initiative of DG Connect at the Commission, which aims to update both the EU staff and the general public about the latest digital trends, as well as the most important digital policies. Normally, all of you are connected via Slido. Please know that you can ask your questions there, and we will make sure to answer them at the end of the session in a dedicated part for questions. We'll also make sure to make the recording available as of next week on the Digital EU channel on YouTube and the slides on the Futurum platform, and particularly in the group for the Connect University sessions. So if you haven't joined yet, make sure to become a member and the links will be added in the chat, of course, so no worries for that. Now we'll quickly introduce the speakers before leaving the floor to the first one. So we will start with a presentation and introduction by Franco Accordino, head of Unit B5 of DG Connect at the Commission. The unit is responsible for investment in high capacity networks. He will take care, as I said, of the introduction, but also the conclusion of this session. Then we'll have a panel discussion, which will be moderated by Stéphanie Char, Strategy Consulting Director at IDAT. She will be taking care of the introduction of the speakers of the panel, so I leave that to her later. And then we will move on to 4 presentations for some projects, 5G projects. And for this, we'll have Mr. Rudolf Konchak, I hope I pronounced it well, for the Tuke project, Mr. Darko Pletsas for the Smart Port Plose project, then Ms. Inga Bariza for the 5G for Lives project, and Mr. Vishal Bait for the Edge 5G project. So now I'll leave the floor to the first speaker, Franco Accordino, for the introduction. Franco, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Raquel, and welcome everyone. Also from my side, I'm so glad to see so many participants to the Connect University, which means that this is a very useful initiative to spread also what we are doing concerning connectivity. That's the theme of today, specific focus on 5G. As you know, in February, earlier this year in February, the Commission has adopted the white paper on the future of Europeans' needs for connectivity. So in this white paper, we identify the challenges that are being faced nowadays by the connectivity sector as a whole. We identify some possible ideas, on how we can upgrade the regulatory framework. Some ideas on how to strengthen the competitiveness of the European telecom sector, and also how to reinforce the security and resilience of backbone networks, notably submarine cables. So an important element of this vision is the so-called connected collaborative computing, which is very much depicted as a vision in this slide here, where you can see the city of tomorrow if we act today. So a vision where actually we move rapidly from copper-based fixed networks to fiber-based fixed networks, where we gradually move also from 4G and 5G systems to 5G standalone systems and 6G. We are investing on that, where you see a whole integration between the connectivity layer and the edge cloud, the middle layer, up to the vertical integration with the use cases. uh, becoming a reality, meaning that we don't see connectivity as an isolated layer enabler, but we see that always bundled with other digital capacities to enable the applications. This is fundamental and goes hand in hand with the virtualization or softwareization process that nowadays connectivity infrastructures are witnessing. It allows to decrease cost. It allows to increase the agility and elasticity of these infrastructures, capable of to respond to more and more challenging requirements from the point of view of the the reaction times or low latency, or in terms of resilience and robustness of the infrastructure, and of course, last but not least, in terms of overall capacity. So this is, of course, part of our broader policy setting targets for the end of the decade for 5G and for also for fixed networks. But what is important is that when networks are deployed, they are deployed already with this broader vision mindset, enabling collaborations across the whole computing and connectivity value chain, or the computing connectivity continuum. It's very important because, of course, not only this is necessary to enable this application, but also because it gives really an unprecedented opportunity to the connectivity sector, telecom sector more traditionally, to reinvent itself, to find new ways of making business, new business models, and to, let's say, capitalize on its strengths to actually project itself into a future context, which will not be a too far future, I would say, where they can compete and collaborate at the same time with the rest of the digital ecosystem, let's say, players. So, of course, our dream is to see what you see in the slides, that there is that all of these will enable strengths in the European ecosystem, also in other segments, like, for instance, making the supply of chips and components from the Union, or developing applications or gaining competitive advantages, also thanks to the presence of these infrastructures and their full integration for emerging applications like digital walls. We have a virtual walls of Web 4.0. So that is exactly our vision. And now, let's say, we will see in these sessions how we can already see or can anticipate this vision by supporting very strategic projects within the context of the CEF Connecting Europe Facility Digital Program. Next slide, please. So, in a nutshell, within the CEF, we aim to finance 5G standalone deployments. And when deploying these networks, we ask the consortia to bundle this deployment with the integration with the edge cloud components, for instance, in order to ensure the necessary, reactivity of the whole system, and the integration with other capacities like edge or cloud, HPC data, or even artificial intelligence components. Because what is important in the end is that altogether this is a connected collaborative computing layer that will enable in the end the applications, and the applications will guarantee certain degrees of security, of resilience, and also efficiency that otherwise would not be possible without this proper integration. And of course, as I said, this must be also the opportunity to test out new business models that go beyond the more traditional consumer-centric business model the telecommunication sector is more used to. It's a fundamental because there is where the value is generated. Nowadays is where data are gathered and processed, and there are, let's say, there is a value generated out of them. That's exactly where, say, the CEF Digital comes to finance the project. That must be ambitious by definition. There must be best practices in a way that that can be somehow be replicated or can draw inspiration to other programs to fund similar endeavors in a way that we can achieve the necessary scale at European level for competing beyond the border of a member states, but especially compete worldwide. And this is an imperative considering the fact that the borders between the various segments beyond the connectivity are more and more blurred. And of course, this is an opportunity, but can also be a risk. Therefore, we need to intervene timely, precisely to give an opportunity to the sector players to create these new business models and new competencies and capacities that can be, of course, provided at the European level, to say the least. Next slide. So this indeed shows that there is a continuum here. There are two continuums, if we can say. One is the geographical continuum. Sorry, one is the technological continuum, which I already explained. It's in the lower part of the slide, where you see every project having not only a connectivity component, but we have also edge cloud infrastructure in the middle, and then the integration with the use cases. But you see also a geographical continuum, because within the CEF Digital, we have already started funding already since two calls, meaning about 2.5 years, projects that are financing, let's say, cross-border 5G infrastructures, so-called 5G corridors, whose, let's say, main target application is connected automated mobility. That means a lot of technical requirements must be made available for this application. And then going more to the local, we have the so-called 5G smart communities that are more addressing urban and more community scale, let's say, use cases, even at the level of rural use cases, and where we basically apply the same paradigm. Next slide. So this is, in a nutshell, an example, let's say, a kind of container for possible template, let's say, for a possible project under the 5G smart communities. It has to have, of course, the user case driving the needs and for deploying the 5G standalone to make these use cases possible in as many, let's say, application field as you might imagine, e-health or education or whatever. Then you have the middle layer, which is all the pool of digital enablers like data, edge, cloud, HPC, artificial intelligence, as I said. And of course, last but not least, the connectivity layer. The connectivity layer, which in the context of this project can be co-financed by the CEF program. And it can be co-financed up to 75% of eligible cost, which is a quite, let's say, a quite interesting co-financing level for this type of project. And the idea is, again, to create this virtuous cycle that you can see there in the lower left part of the slide, where basically the application set the requirements, the use cases, the technological layer provides the solution, and these in turn stimulate a new application. So in a way that we can create these very strong consumer supplier value chains, user supply value chains, let's say, possibly fueled by genuine European supply. That's what basically we want to do also with this action, while of course contributing to the achievement of the digital data targets for 5G. Next slide, please. And so we, as I said, we started about 2 years ago, and we have had already 2 ways of project financed with the CEF. We are currently evaluating the call 3, so soon we really hope to even broaden this portfolio of projects. We believe that we have really already a good critical mass of best practices, meaning that we really aim with these projects not only to immediately address the needs of these applications and contribute directly to the digital data targets, but at the same time to create a debt to bootstrap, let's say, this critical, this viral process that in a way that 5G standalone will become more and more the standard solution that can be then adopted by 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 the let's say the demand side. So of course, 5G is here also to be integrated with the other solutions, uh, and this is of course can be seen at the level of the individual projects. But the overall goal is the one set there in the work program, which by the way we are working on for a next work program. And this is just, I will not mention here in detail the scope of the individual action we are funding. I'm just limiting myself to say that really the portfolio is growing up, and we leave then, of course, the 4 or 5 projects present today to show the characteristics and the objectives of their specific actions, of course, and the technical solutions that they have adopted. So I'm very curious to hear that from the next panel. But for the time being, just saying that we are on the right track on these, and of course, we really need the contribution of everyone to make sure that we advance rapidly with the 5G agenda. And with this, I conclude my short introduction.
Thank you so much, Franco, for the introduction. Before we move on to the panel discussion, I just want to say that for those who joined the session, I just wanted to remind you that if you are connected via Slido, you can add your questions there, and we will make sure to answer them at the end of the session. So now let's move on to the panel that I was talking about in my short introduction. So this panel will be moderated by Ms. Stéphanie Char, and she will be taking care of the introduction of the speakers. So Stephanie, now the floor is yours.
Thank you, Raquel, for the introduction. Hi, everybody. So I'm Stephanie, Strategy Consultant and Market Research Director at IDAT. So IDAT is a French consulting and research company in the telecom sector, and we have been working a lot with Franco and the team on the CEF project. Today, this panel will talk about 5G, mainly taking kind of a step back to explain in an introduction what is 5G. And then with our panel, we will see its application and let's say remaining challenges. So with me today, we have Elena Gora, professor and senior research leader at Coventry University, Roel van den Berg, Program Director Research at the Erasmus School of Economics at Erasmus University in Rotterdam, and Stéphane Huguier, Director of the Digital and Support Division of the City of Wavre in Belgium. First of all, let's talk a little bit about 5G and where we are in terms of deployment to set the discussion. So if we go back to what is 5G, as you know, 5 is for the 5th generation of mobile technology, and it offers obviously a lot of improvements in terms of speeds. So we're talking about 50 megabits per second to 3 gigabytes per second, depending on the network conditions, of course. Lower latency, for example, 1 millisecond for 5G compared to 20, 30 milliseconds for 4G. Increased capacity, so that means a higher number of connected devices per unit area. And obviously more resilient connectivity, so it can accommodate both the high demand and mission critical applications at the same time. But what's really new about 5G compared to previous generations is that 5G really enables a wide range of new applications and services. We can talk about industrial automation, remote surgery, network slicing, massive IoT connectivity, obviously everything that the CEF project has to offer. And we will see with our panelists in a moment kind of real life application of the technology and what they have done with that. In where are we now in terms of 5G deployment? Let's say that it's been launched roughly 5 years ago at different pace, obviously, in different countries. still to be launched in some. But if you take human life, let's say 5G is at the adolescent stage. So it's very mainstream in what we'll call them advanced markets. And it's really on the rise in other markets. Last year, I think India, the Philippines, Malaysia, Peru, Mexico, and Brazil saw a really high increase in adoption. So that some of some examples about that, and very quickly to, let's say, data points. At the end of 2023, so last December, 5G was deployed in over 80 countries and on more than 200 networks around the world. And of course, it continues to be rolled out globally. And as it's being rolled out, and as what we call 5G standalone, so where the core network is 5G, it's integrating new features. So at IDAT, we predict that the number of 5G subscription worldwide should exceed 6.8 billion at the end of 2028, so kind of in 5 years' time. And in the European Union, 5G connection should increase from, let's say, 20% of total connections in 2023. That includes the M2M and other and normal, let's say, data cards, to 60% in 2028. If you rounding up to, let's say, 166 million SIM cards in 2023 to 639 million in 2028. So that was kind of an introduction, let's say, to really set the discussion. To have a better understanding now of what 5G is capable of doing and where we are worldwide level and EU 27, let's have a closer look, as I was saying, on hands-on application of 5G and all the opportunities and threats, because there are some issues still to be dealt with the evolution of the technology. So first of all, I want to turn to Stéphane Huguier, that represents the city of Wavre in Belgium. From this governmental perspective, let's say, I want to ask you how easy it was for citizens to accept 5G to begin with.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, everyone. But contrary that what you maybe have expected as answer, this was been generally the case in WAV. So there's not so easy as you say, but it's not so bad. In fact, we have communicated a lot about the implementation of the Connecto project, and for sure its dimension and also its impacts on the daily lives of our citizens. And we have also set up political debates on the issue of 5G with major players in the issue in Wallonia, such as the Digital Wallonia, Digital Agency here. And in fact, all the municipal councillors from the majority and also the minority were able to express themselves and ask all the questions that would be useful. So yes, indeed, it was quite a good acceptance for all the citizens. In fact, we have opened all the question and answer, and to be fully transparent about that. And we have also decided to set up what as we call a citizen council in WAV that discuss all issues related to digital technologies. So yes, indeed, including 5G, but not also 5G, all the digital technology that we use everyone all day. So to try to reduce the fears and to reduce, the digital divide for our citizens.
Thank you, Stéphane. It's very interesting to see that despite some of what news outlet are saying about how 5G was received by the citizens, you can give us another outlook at it, and that the process has been smooth on your end. Talking about this need for information and informing the citizen, in other areas, the process has been less smooth than in the VAV region. The idea is to look a bit at the disinformation. Let's say, I'm sure everybody has heard about during the COVID area, people were taking off the 5G antennas, saying that 5G is bringing COVID and all this disinformation. So my question is really about how do you fight disinformation about 5G? And I think, Roel, you have an interesting take on that.
First of all, I think with the example that Stefan gave for the specific situation of WAVR is actually a very good illustration of what I think you should do. First of all, of course, there is no one silver bullet answer to the whole spectrum of people not knowing enough up to, let's say, the rather extreme cases of misinformation. But I think what is a very effective start is to make sure that there is enough information around, that people know what 5G is, and especially what it means for them. I think the way people talk about 5G, also the vendors, it's generally expressed in terms of the advantages for the network performance overall, and much less for the individual user experience, so to say, of the individual user. So they may grasp that it may have to do with something like, okay, we get faster internet or something like that, but the specific details are usually not so much emphasized. And that, of course, create a kind of fertile ground for all kinds of even more extreme cases, like what you mentioned in the COVID era, where people said through vaccination, they insert microchips in our bodies, and those microchips are manipulated, through 5G, and that's why we need to set 5G equipment on fire, as a very extreme example. I think if you put more emphasis on explaining, let's say in normal terms, what 5G is, how it benefits, how it is different, how it progresses in general, but especially for the individual user, that already creates a more constructive environment. And where it comes to the more extreme cases, I think it is very important to address it at the source. So where it goes around in the platforms, to address it more or less head on, explaining what of the information that is shared is wrong, because that is the kind of environments where these kind of conspiracy theories and more extreme theories originate. And if we launch a separate campaign through official institutions, which are generally trusted in those communities, that is probably much less effective. And what could also help to leverage, let's say, the counter message is to involve people that are trusted by those communities, recognized by those communities, because these more extreme theories build on an element of general distrust of governments, of big tech, etc. So if you bring them in the front line to attack those examples of misinformation, that is treated with much suspicion as well. So you need to still connect to people that are trusted and still respected in those environments where misinformation originates. And I think Stefan's example was a very good illustration of how you could do that.
Thank you very much for your outlook on that. I think, Elena, also you've seen a lot of disinformation on your end when it comes to 5G. I think we don't have the sound, Elena.
I'd like to re-emphasize Rolf's message on investing in knowledge. I think that's really the key to it all. And I'd like to call on all of us to remember that as much as this information in 5G has caused some chaos, particularly in the pandemic, at least in parts of our global community, the advent of AI is causing even more chaos. So we need to actually put the two and two together and learn that investment in communities, investment in propagating the right messages, and in fostering an informed and rational public discourse about the technologies, it's actually key to adoption and to success of those technologies at the end of the day. So all in all, myth busting with public education campaigns, engaging trusted sources, as Rolf mentioned, maybe working more at community engagement, as we've heard from Stefan, to ensure that there is no project out there, pilot or no pilot, commercial deployment, that is being deployed and developed without the community uptake first. So community first approach is, in general, openness and transparency of communication, collaborations with the tech companies that goes deep beyond the technical messaging is also key, and leveraging on social media in the right way through influencers and public figures. I think we've got so many instruments at hand to fight disinformation. We've got also an awful lot of same instruments that are very useful to maybe prevent disinformation in the first place. And that's the space I'd like us all to occupy, of prevention rather than combating or fighting disinformation once things have happened. It is very often the case that any public grey literature articles on both 5G and some aspects of AI meet with a lot of negative public debate. And that is more or less, in my experience, the outcome of the public not being convinced of what the technology can do for them, the positive aspects of the technology, and not having understood by public dissemination of science what the technology is all about in actual fact.
Yeah, that's very true. And you were talking about AI, which is, as everybody knows, the topic, the biggest topic in town. Let's say every major event is talking about AI and has placed AI really at the center of everything. Tell us a bit more, Elena, that what you're doing on what are you working on when it comes to 5G for AI, and how can 5G enhance the AI and the process?
Well, actually, the very opportunities that 5G brings, that of enhanced connectivity and speed, enabling edge computing, the massive IoT deployments that you have already mentioned are all contributing to improved data analytics, amassing and harnessing the power of data that is generated momentarily in much, much larger quantities than we can ever dream to consume in real time. So actually realizing the potential of AI rests more or less solely on having the right transport infrastructure for all that data that can be gathered by the trillions of sensors that are all around us. So in a way, the AI sits at the top of a pinnacle of enablers, 5G, including very cheap sensors deployed in all around our environments, and relies also on the ability of the public to feel secure, feel private, remain trustful of all of the data that is acquired about them every moment of our lives, every moment of our private and professional lives. So for me, 5G and AI sit at the intersection of trust, cost, privacy, open data, and a host of other issues that we are bringing all of the time in the fore of the public domain. And I think the challenges that we have, as many as the opportunities are also numerous, but they rely on resolving the people in the middle, the human-centered aspect of all of these technologies. We collect data about people all of the time. We are the people the data is collected upon. And unless we build smart communities in all of the areas where we intend to deploy 5G and AI, I think we have lost the battle that we shouldn't be fighting in the first place. So I feel that the opportunity that 5G and AI bring together is unprecedented. It is actually the way in which people and societies can thrive. We can derive an awful lot of economic growth from this mix of AI in the 5G loop, or 5G in the AI loop, for real-time insights, real-time decision making, and the smart factories and the automation that it can bring to us, the smart hospitals, and actually the smarter security systems all around societal events and societal interventions. We can actually achieve societal inclusion much better, much faster by utilizing AI and 5G together. I think there is no end of societal benefits should they be sufficiently well understood. I think Europe is doing fantastically well in this space, and we have a massive amount of examples of successful deployments of both 5G and AI, both in cost savings and flexibility in industry, as well as in telemedicine and healthcare, particularly in Italy, for example, with remote surgery in so many of Italy's hospitals. The list is very, very long, and it will grow longer. However, I think it is now the time to move beyond pilots and individual successes to mass deployments should cost and infrastructure be on our side. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. A very interesting point that you raised that was the word human-centric. I think that most people forget that 5G is a tool for use and it's not an end to itself. And as you touched about on remote surgery, 5G has also been a big topic in the healthcare sector. Roel, what has been your experience in that?
Well, the area that I've been working on with researchers in Erasmus University very much builds also on the case that Elena mentioned concerning data sharing, and in a sensitive area of the medical practice. So it also brings all these issues of privacy, for instance. But I think just as one example where what the researchers that I work with have been studying is the case of stroke and or brain attack, and how that could be improved if we use facilities such as 5G. Approximately 15 million people around the world per year get a stroke, and around 6 million die from it almost immediately, and even more, up to 7.5 million people die from it within a year. It's the second most important cause of death around the world. And how it should be treated is relatively well known. So you either, once you go to the hospital, you because it's caused by a clot in your blood vessel. What they do is they either give you medicine to break down the clot, or you get an operation where they mechanically try to remove the clot. And in all this, it has already been decided for decades. Time is absolutely key. The speed with which this all is done is absolutely essential, because a stroke can be considered as a very rapid aging of your brain. So the longer you wait till you treat it, the more your brain deteriorates. That goes very quickly. So every second basically saves aging of about 8 hours of your brain. So speed is absolutely essential. Now, technology like 5G could help to speed up the actual treatment. Hospitals strive to treat patients who come in with a stroke within an hour. This is so-called door-to-needle time, and still more than half of the hospitals do not succeed in doing that within an hour. And in that model, let's say model template of 1 hour, 15 minutes is usually reserved for, first of all, identifying that the patient has a stroke and alerting the stroke team. So only after 15 minutes, they actually start treating you after they've concluded that you have a stroke. Now, those 15 minutes could be saved if you facilitate patients, let's say, while they are on their way to the hospital, to provide such high quality information that the people in the hospital can already conclude that you have a stroke even before you come in. And that is could be a very valuable way of increasing the quality of life, let's say, of the patients afterwards. So that if you just imagine the scale of the number of people that are involved in this every year, what the effect could be if you would apply that in a smarter way, I think is a clear example of how this kind of technology could benefit us, also in the medical area.
Great. So this 1 millisecond of 5G is really critical for keeping someone alive compared to the 20, 30 millisecond of 4G. So that's a great example.
Yeah,
So,
especially of course in terms of quality of the
Mm.
quality of the images that you could send, the kind of richer communication that you could have with the patient. In the end, it could have a big effect. And this is only one example.
great. Continuing on other examples, there's obviously a lot you can do with 5G. Maybe Stefan, to continue, can tell us more about how a city such as Wavre is implementing 5G. I'm sure you have several projects on this.
Indeed, we have several use cases that we help with the Connecto project with 5G connectivity to activate or to accelerate. As Franco Colino just say, connectivity and edge cloud are the keys to do those use cases. And for instance, we have a big sports event that we co-hosting the Hockey World Cup in 2026 in Wavre. And as part of the construction of the new National Hockey Stadium, we are providing 5G connectivity for the spectator, of course, but also for the athletes, for the staff, for the media, for the security guard, the infrastructure manager, etc., etc. And as you say, you can slice the network. You can do a big secure network, as just Elena talking about. And the connectivity takes from, for instance, from video surveillance, for prisons, for internet, of course, for telephony, for access control, for sound broadcasting, for screen broadcasting, for signposts, all the stuff that you can do with connectivities. But thinking just now at the beginning of the project, of the construction project, to face all the spectator worldwide that come down in Wavre in 2026. But we have, as a local government, we have also communities, we have also citizens, and that's for a municipality, it's the core business, if you want, our citizens. And we want to offer, for instance, free internet connectivity for a part of our population that is financially, materially, or humanly unable to afford the connection. So the technical support and the help with the use are provided by the administration, of course, but also with the Connecto team to help us to connect people that cannot, have connection today. And another example is the smart city approach, the energy approach, the waste management approach that we have in a city. For a smart city, for instance, we implement lots of sensor to measure CO2, temperature, noise, humidity, fine particle, the level of our river that we have in Wavre, Bierge and Limal. And all the data that we can gather with those sensors are pushing an open data platform that we can use for our own needs, but also to open all the data that we gather with those sensors for the citizen and for everyone. They can show, all the urbanistic point of view that we make, all the construction that we change in Wavre to measure the real impacts in kind of real time that we can gather with those sensors in our future open platform. And in the context of the renewable energy communities, we can do, in fact, the communication between smart meters, because we can use in Belgium that we say the CER or the CEC in English, like the renewable energy communities or the citizen energy communities. One of the challenge for that communities is a reliable and secure connectivity between those various smart meters from somebody produce like solar energy or wind energy in the neighborhood. Can you straight away put the electricity on the other people in the same neighborhood? And we have also a fabulous shared waste management project is being built in our northern business park in Wavre. We have major companies such as GSK, for instance, are join forces and pooling their resources to optimize their waste management. And for those use case, connectivity is also a key factor in the success of such as a project to exchange all the data that we can do to speed up and to accelerate those kind of projects. And for instance, we provide lots of SIM cards useful to that's connectivity 5G on our 5G SA network with the Connector project. So we have a lot of different use cases in the city, and that's also very important. We not talking about technologies, also technologies. We're talking about use cases, and we talk about needs for our citizens, for our industries, for our schools, for our association, and everybody have interest of the connectivity. We can just open to discuss with them.
Thank you, Stefan, and thank you for the three of you to have shared this wealth of information about the areas where 5G can really be a value added compared to, let's say, previous mobile technologies. Now, I know there's a lot to be done on 5G deployment to bring these benefits to all. As I was saying earlier, starting with converting the core networks into 5G, so what we call 5G standalone, so to bring all those capabilities to the market. But to wrap up a bit the session, let's talk about the challenges that we still see to overcome for 5G to really release its full potential. Roel, what have you seen as a societal impact of this advance in technology, let's say?
I think to a large extent, given that this kind of technology can fundamentally change how we work, how we study, how we act in all kinds of areas of life, I think much of the potential impact is not, let's say, fully conceived. And I think that's where the main challenge is if you want to put it like that. So really to conceive how our behavior will change if we start to deploy this kind of technology in a broad sense, both in a way of, and that's where we started about the misinformation. People tend to emphasize there, oh, it will limit us, or there will be an increased surveillance, or there will be negative effects. But I think there's also a lot of advantage in terms of positive effects, providing, for instance, access of services to people who until then did not have access to that kind of services, or helping people to develop in a way that has not been possible so far. And I think at this stage, with the core of the debate still being very technical, I think we could benefit from taking a more social science perspective on, okay, how could this affect people in a positive way, again, in the way they live, in the way they study, etc. I think that's it. You may call it a challenge, but I think it is primarily an opportunity, especially to really think through what are the more profound effects that the deployment of this kind of technology has. And in that sense, the use cases are, I think, very valuable, because only then you see what it actually means, in a sense. It's hard to conceive that fully from the drawing board.
Yeah, it's true. There are still a lot of questions in this area. And mostly when we turn to AI, Elena, I mean, we've heard, I mean, when I started in the telecom industry, my private joke was that we could end up as Terminator or Iron Man. So how do we not get into Terminator, Helena?
I think the education and the investment in knowledge remains my standpoint to avoid both fear and also redress any negative outcomes from using AI and developing AI. But I think in terms of challenges for integrating 5G and AI successfully, maybe we should go back and think of the technical skills and the technical expertise that is going to be needed in order to have safe, successful, and high utility deployments, which also means that we need to turn to governments, we need to turn to super governments and say skills programs are needed. We actually need the technical specialists that can handle sufficiently well 5G, understand AI, and can cope with the integration of both. specialists that can develop and maintain AI and 5G technologies. And thus, the investment in knowledge means also investment in education and training programs. Universities will have a tremendous role to play. We have to change our curricula. We need to think again how we train our engineers and our computer scientists. What do we actually teach the telecommunication engineers? Because all of the issues, bar the very simple technical ones, are going to be societal issues that they are going to face. I think we need to take a holistic view over skills and the skills agenda in Europe in particularly and elsewhere. And I think that following on from that, we need to look at the regulatory and ethical considerations. Regulation of 5G is difficult as it is, but when you add the ethics of AI, the whole landscape becomes even more complex. Then we need to also consider data management. It is all okay to say we have sensors in our toothbrushes and millions thousands of sensors in a home. But when you talk about harvesting information and knowledge from that sensing community that is deployed all around us, that speaks of discipline, speaks of storage, speaks of understanding how the handling of that data would negatively affect our other endeavors in climate change by consuming so much energy to process and so forth. So I think we have a big complex situation in our hands that we need to tackle yet again with putting people in the middle and thinking from there.
Thank you, Elena. Conscious of time, I'm afraid we have to wrap up this panel. A big thank you to all three of you for a very interesting discussion. So we have seen that 5G remains a very lively topic, from understanding the technology and what it brings to people and businesses, to the remaining challenge, as we just saw, to make it fully impactful. And in the next session, we will dig more into concrete CEF projects to detail more the interest of 5G. If you are interested in more information about 5G, really don't hesitate to reach out. It will be a pleasure to discuss more about this topic with you. And now I leave you with Raquel for the remaining of the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, and all the speakers involved. Very great to have a moderated panel, but a panel in general on 5G, which we never had. I think it was really interesting, and we for sure will have fulfilled our goal here. Now let's jump into the next presentation. So we'll have 4 project presentations, as I said earlier. But before repeating that, I just want to make sure that everyone who joined a bit later knows that we can, that you can, if you are connected via Slido, you can ask your questions there, and because at the end we'll have a Q&A session and we'll make sure to answer them. So that's a little reminder. So now let's jump into the first project presentation. It will be on the 5G for Lives project with Miss Inga Bariza. So Inga, I will leave the floor to you now. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I hope you can see and hear me. Yes? Perfect. And once again, thank you for having me today. And our project is long and very ambitious. And what we have here is a very excellent team and dedicated professionals working on that. So success is right there. And I'm really, really, very happy about that. The key elements of our project is 5 technologies and drones, but the absolute main goal of the project is improvement of safety and environment for public by these technologies. So there are many performers in this project, but the main beneficiaries of the project are 2 municipalities, Riga and Turin, and their police force being the end users. Next slide, please. So how did we get here? We actually started more than a year ago, if not earlier, when the project idea was defined, and once we knew what we really want, we were ready to start all the procedures. The core of the project, as I mentioned, is to save and improve lives. So we came with the perfect acronym of the project, 5G for lives. And next, we started to work and continued with development of the specific detailed use cases. We submitted project in March 2023. Then a long waiting period started when in October we received positive news and an invitation to sign the grant agreement with the Commission, which was finalized by the Christmas and New Year. So for everyone new who is listening, that is quite a challenging and long process with a lot of work to be done. After that, immediately after the New Year, we started implementation of the project with the kickoff conference, and all of that was very widely covered by the state media. Next, please. A little bit on the evaluation results. As for any European Union project, evaluation process, of course, is completely anonymous. And all we could do during the waiting period was hope and pray for the best. And our team is really happy and honored that experts gave us such a high assessment. We received 24.5 points out of 25 maximum. Next, please. Little bit on the partnership of the project. From the perspective of public sector, Riga City Council Digital Agency is the lead partner, and we are working together on implementation with other municipal departments. For example, Development Department of Riga City Council and Riga Police, which is also the end user in this project. In Italy, activities are designed by the municipality of Torino, with their police being the end user, and Polytechnical University of Turin as an associated partner. Of course, project would not happen without important telco partners. In Latvia, it is Latvian mobile telephone that provides 5G component, and in Italy, it's Wintre company. From Latvia, we also have State Electronic Communication Office that oversees the radio frequency spectrum in country, and Vefresh Innovation Company, which is an NGO that represents Latvian innovation ecosystem, the whole Latvian innovation ecosystem, and they are also responsible for dissemination. Next, please. One is for sure, cities of Riga and Torino are on the mission to make emergency response and public safety more effective and innovative. And here you can see main objectives of the project. For example, improvement of life-saving and rescue options. This project will improve decision-making and reaction time in emergency situations. Using 5G-based big data processing through a digital platform with artificial intelligence, I love how it is mentioned multiple times already today, will help our lifeguards to operate more precisely. In our project, 5G connectivity will enhance the coordination on the operational level, improving the quality of streaming and data elaboration. Then, of course, deployment of 5G systems work towards an important goal, which is European Gigabit Society, and again, integration of artificial intelligence for the public services. In this project, also very important point is preventing of risks. Project will improve monitoring and deliver risk assessment by integrating 5G and drone technologies and focus on effective prevention of land and hillside risks. We also identified validation and the development of new methodology for BVLOS flights, means beyond visual line of sight at the EU level, as it is very important to enhance safety and efficiency of European skies. In summary, those goals showcase the commitment of both municipalities to innovation, efficiency, and safety for public. Next, please. In Latvia, there are two places for activities. One is by the sea, another one is by the lake. Actually, there were two green stars, but I don't know if you can see them now. At least in my versions, I don't see them, but probably it's not important. And one is on the sea and on the lake side, and the emphasis on 5G technology, real-time data control, so that we can see in real time what is happening on beaches and on water, both in winter and summertime. In Turin, activities take place in a mountain area and is focused on human safety during natural disasters. For Riga, in this case, I want to say that it is very important to exchange with Turin on all the drone technologies because they are already very, very experienced in this. Next, please. So what exactly are we doing? First and foremost, there will be 3 new 5G connections. 2 of them will be located in Riga, and they both will be with hydrogen power backup systems. In Riga, we will purchase 4 drones with thermal and infrared cameras, providing 2 drones in each area. Specific routes will also be developed with information transmitted and used very, very quickly. We will monitor swimming areas during summer, also during winter, people on ice. That includes also the ice fishing activities. Also, pets and environment will be monitored to prevent anything dangerous. And at the end of the project, what we are looking towards is to have a complete understanding of the processes in absolutely different weather conditions. In Torino, it is planned to obtain sensors and introduce a special service to manage emergencies and monitor risk areas, for example, like hillsides. The main goal is to create a service that can quickly understand what is happening during emergencies. The service will use real-time information to make decisions that protect people and environment. Turin will also implement something, not also, but Turin will implement something called a 5G bubble, which is a special zone that provides super fast internet with 5G coverage. And in Italy, they will also test anti-drone hacking tech and integrate satellite data for swift and sustainable emergency responses. Next, please. So, overall work plan. We have 4 work packages. Work is very intense and very challenging. So far, we have handed over to European Commission already work package 1 deliverable, which is project management plan. We are finalizing work package 2, start on defining on specifications and requirements for all locations, starting on work package 3. And for example, some of the deliverables from work package 6, like communication strategy, is also about to be finalized. And quite soon, and very interesting fact that quite soon we must start the procurement procedures for equipment. And we are actually looking into possibilities to apply innovative procurement procedures as we are combining this project together with another project which we are implementing together with EIT Mobility on defining innovative procurement procedures for urban mobility. So that will be some like a side aspect which will be very interesting for probably for other cities as well. All 4 drones must be operational in early spring next year to be able to start first demonstration, followed by the trial in the summer, then fall, winter session, and it all should be finalized in winter 2026. Given that this is a European project, we will make sure that the results of the project are disseminated in other cities and countries. I mean, Riga and Torino are members of many fruitful networks, for instance, Eurocities, ERIN, living in a EU platform, Open, Agile, and Smart Cities, and we are already disseminating information through all of those platforms. We will participate also, and already are participating in conferences. One of the biggest, for instance, will be Barcelona Smart City Congress, which will be happening in November, where we will be there with our own stand. Also, next week, we are participating in Torino's organized 5G towards 6G conference, where we will be discussing, I will be on a panel on involvement of living labs for the advanced urban innovations, where, of course, we will discuss 5G development. Next, please. The budget. And this is how our budget looks. Approximately 2/3 of the budget are going to personnel costs, and 1/3, excuse me, is going for the purchase of equipment. The other costs are dissemination, business trips, and very necessary is to include project audits. And as you know, European Commission is co-financing 75% of these costs. Next, please. Benefits. There's nothing but benefits in this project. And the very essence of this project is to create multiple new opportunities for societies in both countries, Latvia and Italy. This project will use 5G technology and drones to make our world safer, more connected, more sustainable. When I'm thinking about it, it's just great to imagine our emergency responders with real-time information, with 5G drones providing live data, with high-definition videos, and our police, I would say they are heroes, and they will be able to make quick decisions very, very fast. This high-speed 5G will ensure that help arrives faster, and if there's crisis, it will save more lives. Then about the details, better aerial monitoring and data collection will make search and rescue operations more efficient in general, even in tough conditions when disasters like floods, landslides, or fires occur. All the improved systems will help manage these threats and protect our communities. And when we were thinking about the project, we were thinking not just about the safety, we were thinking also about the environment. So by using sustainable technologies like hydrogen power, we are actually reducing the carbon footprint as well. And for our cities, is this especially important because both cities, Riga and Turin, are the members of the European Commission Mission 100 Climate Neutral Cities by 2030. Very important aspect that also was previous speakers were touching, and also we addressed within this project is digital inclusion. And this project actually brings very strong evidence that 5G connectivity is beneficial for society. And through the education of society, we are raising the awareness about how 5G and drone technologies can improve public safety and emergency management. We are empowering communities with knowledge and resources. The more they see practical effects of the 5G and how it can help, the better it is. Summarizing, project brings enormous economic benefits. Deploying and maintaining new technologies are already creating jobs, stimulating local economy and economies, actually, it's two countries, and will promote sustainable tourism in the future. Next, please. Overall, 5G Lives project shows the power of working together and innovating. By partnering with public sector and the private stakeholders, we are improving public sector services, which is very important. In conclusion, I want to say that 5G Lives project is more about than just the technology. It is about creating, again, safer, more inclusive, and sustainable society. It is not just about dreaming of a better world, but we are actually doing something for this to happen. And I would like to ask you to play the small promo video we created for the project. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Inga, for your presentation and for this nice video. I hope it was possible to view it for everyone. Let's now move on to our no, not again. To our next presentation. Sorry, for our next project. So this will be the Edge 5G project presented by Vishal Bait. So Vishal, this would be your moment.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me to present our project for the Smart Communities call that we did. You can go to the first slide. So my name is Vishal. I'm the grant manager at Telia. Telia, we are a telecom operator based in Sweden. We operate in Scandinavian countries as well as Baltic countries. And I work as a grant manager, so I'm responsible for the CEF projects that we work with as well. You can go to the next slide. I would like to start with this slide to tell you a little bit about what are the goals of the EU digital targets for 2030. As you can see, there's a gap between where we are right now and where we want to be in terms of digital skills, as well as digital infrastructure, and that is about 5G, high-speed connectivity, and so on. Worth noting here is something which Franco touched on his presentation about deployment of edge nodes. This is a current target which we have right now, which is to deploy around 10,000 edge nodes across Europe to give high quality edge computing services. And this is where our project fits in. You can go to the next slide. So as you can see, the Edge 5G project addresses the target to deploy the high secure edge nodes. The current situation so far is that it's pointing towards a decreasing latency with 5G networks, which in turn creates a need of application that relies on low latency as well as network slicing. So we think that edge computing can be a very good tool to enable these low latency enabled application. And that's where our project comes in. Our project addresses the catch-22 problem, where developers do not know the capabilities of edge computing, since there's a lack of cloud edge services, especially that uses 5G. So this is where our project comes in and tries to solve this challenge. You can move to the next slide. Our project spans around 3 years, and the plan is to deploy 5G edge networks, network infrastructure with features like network slicing, also network-based positioning at 4 different sites in Sweden to provide edge computing connectivity that can enable the low latency application and the use cases that our project focuses on. As you can see, we will have four different sites in Sweden. The project budget is around 4 million euros, and with 75% funding, this will really help us to enable these low latency use cases that we want to work with. The partners for this project is Telia, the telco operator, RISE, which is the Research Institute of Sweden, and then we also have 2 of the 4 municipalities which are involved in this project, the municipality of Luleå, which is a city, and Boden Business Park. Yes, we can move to the next slide. So for this project, we will use Telia's innovation platform, Northstar. Northstar is a collaboration between Telia and Ericsson. It is a world's first, where we offer access to next generation 5G technology that hasn't been launched and is not commercially available. So this is a chance for our partners to come and try the next generation technology to see what they can use this for, what applications and services they can offer using these. Also worth to mention is that we use the Northstar in 2 other European funded projects, one of which is a 5G corridor project. Another one is another smart community project based around healthcare and innovation based around healthcare. Next slide, please. So this innovation platform Northstar exists in parallel to our commercial network, which is also called as public network, but has a dedicated 5G network core. And the goal here is to offer services that are not yet available to the public network. And this is also something that we can provide across Sweden, across any type of topology that needs the use cases and applications of low latency to be utilized. Next slide, please. I won't get into the details of this slide, but you can see how in this architecture slide, this is how we connect our Northstar core to the edge nodes to make the use case possible. And as you can see, there are 4 edge nodes that we plan to use in this project. Next one. So in this project, we carry out edge-enabled network deployment in these 4 sites in Sweden. What you can see on the map on the left, those are the 4 cities where our project will be based on. Luleå, starting with Luleå. Luleå is one of the most important port cities in Sweden, since it has the biggest steel manufacturing facility based in Sweden, and it's also where the icebreaker fleet for Sweden and Finland, which is a shared fleet of icebreaker ships, they're also parked here. The next one is Boden. Boden is a mining city, which is also the home of industries for hydrogen manufacturing, H2 Green Steel, which is one of the flagship projects at EU, manufacturing steel using hydrogen as the source of energy. Then we have Skellefteå, which is one of the fastest growing urban in Northern Europe. And it's also home for many industries, including Northvolt, which is a battery gigafactory based here, backed by Volkswagen and Volvo. And then we also have an agriculture test bed based in Ultuna, in Uppsala, in southern Sweden. Next slide. So these are the 4 possible use cases that we have narrowed down in this project. It is worth noting that we haven't finalized these use cases, but we are very close to finalizing what we will want to use the super low latency that edge computing will give us in this project. So first up, in the Luleå port on top left, you can see public safety is one of the use cases that we are following. Here we want to use drones to enable public safety, especially around fire and safety, and also rescue. Here we are checking possibilities, how to use it with icebreaker ships and how to combine fire and rescue activities around using drones. Another option on the bottom left is around smart transport at the port of Luleå. Here we also want to use sensors and drones to see how we can to help the logistics industry based at the Luleå port to really use the low latency enabled use cases. Top right, in the city of Boden, we have use case around smart recycling and waste management. Here we want to use drones as well as image recognition technology, possibly some AI to help with waste sorting as well as waste management and recycling wherever we can. And this will also be connected to the logistic sides of how the waste management is waste is then sorted and then also distributed for its next stage. In the city of Skellefteå, here we want to work with use case around smart city traffic management, where the goal is to use drones and also IoT sensors to monitor traffic safety. As you may know, this city is quite close to the Arctic Circle. It's quite icy. It's very cold, and we really want to monitor the level of ice, but also monitor traffic and how does ice affects the traffic. So we will use different technologies to try to monitor and create a traffic management system in this country, in the city. Lastly, we have the smart agriculture automation at the Ultuna agriculture base based in Uppsala. Here we want to use, again, drones as well as IoT sensors, technologies such as slicing and network positioning to try to identify the needs as well as to automate some of the applications that is carried out now in the city of Ultuna. So these are the use cases. We haven't finalized it yet, but as you can hear, there is a lot of use case around drones where we want to use high definition video, maybe 4K video, and of course in the application around BIF laws, beyond visual line of sight, to really enhance the services that we can offer, especially given the edge node and the low latency it has to offer. It is also worth mentioning that Network slicing will be a big part of this. As I said, North Star is a network which is offered in parallel to the public network. So here we will really like to give as much speed as possible to the end user, to the application, to the service, so that they can really enjoy the low latency, combined with the edge nodes as well, to really try out different things and see what they can do with this low latency. Also, we have invited a developer community in a national project to come and explore their services, their use cases around these use cases. So we want to build another layer on top of this, especially for focusing on the developers, how they foresee the use of these systems, but also the network. Next slide. Yes, so that will be all from my side. I'm leaving you with this picture of one of our radio sites north of Arctic Circle, where it's very cold, but we have connectivity there as well. So yeah, that is me. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for this nice presentation. Let's now move to the next project presentation with the Smart Port Plose project presented by Darko Pletsas. So leaving now the floor to you, Darko.
Yes, good afternoon to everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank you all to be presented on this event, and thank you all to let us present our project within the port of Ploče. Can you please next slide? Next slide, please. Okay, so my name is Darko Pletsas, and I'm the head of digitalization department in the Port of Ploče Authority. I'm a member of many project teams regarding the digitalization, port digitalization, cybersecurity, physical security, and within this project regarding the implementation of the private 5G network in the Port of Ploče area. As already you can see on the slide, we want to make the Port of Ploče smart Port of Ploče by implementing the private 5G network. Within this project, Port of Ploče Authority is the lead partner, and together with our project partner Markoja, we want to implement use cases on proper way within the port area. Next slide, please. So this is our agenda for today. I will try to make it quick. We will talk a little about in introduction regarding the Port of Ploče, state of play, examples, smart Port of Ploče and 5G, and there's information regarding the contacts of Port of Ploče Authority. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I think that it is very important to make a little introduction regarding the Port of Ploče Authority. Our primary focus is on creating and securing conditions for efficient management of maritime and public property. And within this project, we think that using modern technologies, we can make the easy transshipment regarding the transshipment port to a regional logistics center. Next slide, please. Okay, so can you please revert to the site before this one? Can you yes, this. So it is very important to say that we are funded by Croatian government, and we are directly responsible to Ministry of the Sea Transport Infrastructure of Republic Croatia. Next slide, please. And regarding this information, we are proclaimed as a port of outstanding national economic interest of Republic of Croatia. So I think that these information are crucial because implementation of use cases within this project will have impact on other ports in Croatia. And regarding the private 5G network, it is crucial to say that this is the first of kind private 5G network which are implemented for the private companies or authorities in the Croatia. In this case, we are implementing the private 5G network in the Port of Ploče area. We think that by using the modern technologies and this kind of technology, we can satisfy the port users regarding the speed, quality, reliability, safety, cost effectiveness, and productivity of the services provided within the port. So it is very important to say that the Port Approach Authority has been proclaimed as a port of outstanding national economic interest of Republic of Croatia. By implementation of private 5G network, we think that we can speed up the and satisfy the port users and speed up the data exchange within the port areas, so that all this port process can run smoothly on a daily basis. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, so regarding the state of play, we have three use cases which have to be implemented. And if you see the slide, you can see that there's a lot of, please, can you open the slide? Yes. You can see that there's a lot of the port users which are exchanging lots of data. And for this kind of exchange of data, we need the private G network so that we can exchange it to everyone. So I think that the crucial information that all the users are using autonomous systems, and we need to provide the network connectivity and provide them public services in the port area so that we can all have benefits of this data that can be exchanged in the port areas. Next slide. Regarding the use cases, we deal with the real-time location system, surveillance and record keeping of cargo manipulation, incident prevention and management. Next slide, please. And next slide, please. One of the cases regarding the real-time location system is regarding the precise and efficient tracking of the vehicle. There's a lot of truck companies which are providing transport of the goods within the port and outside the ports. And with 5G network, we can correctly locate them in the port areas. Next slide, please. Also, if you have this maritime side, with the 5G network, we can provide a virtual environment for the port, for example, for the port security officers to have the view of the ship berthing. They can for the geolocating ship positions and berthing, and to follow all the processes regarding the berthing of the ship. And this can be also used for the video surveillance analytics later if something happens which can have impact on security in the port areas. Within this, we can optimize the work process and increase the level of security. Next slide, please. Second use case is regarding surveillance and record keeping of cargo manipulation. Next slide. So if we are talking about the surveillance and record keeping of cargo manipulation, it's very important to have the video and to have the records regarding the cargo manipulation in the ports. And we think that with the 5G network, we can provide a smooth exchange of this kind of data, of this amount of data regarding the cargo manipulation, regarding the cargo identification and everything. And we can place the smart analysis cameras on the terminals, which can provide us all other data regarding the cargo. This data have to be exchanged to the all port stakeholders over the private 5G network. Next slide. So if we have some damages on goods, for example, on containers, we can follow the surveillance system and to see what happened. We can also in real time provide the surveillance of the manipulation within those goods. So basically, in the beginning, when I said regarding Port Authority, we can, through this 5G private network, we can manage all these kind of use cases and all this kind of operation within the ports on different terminals. Next slide, please. And third use case is incident prevention and management. Next slide. So we know all that in port area, there's lots of different type of cargos. We have the dry bulk cargo, we have container cargo, general cargo, and everything. But there's a lot of security issues regarding this kind of cargo. So it's very important for us that we can use the 5G network to prevent this kind of security incidents regarding, for example, fire detection, air and sea pollution, and all this data which can be prevented and properly on time can be for surveillance. They can be exchanged to all the relevant concessionaires and stakeholders in the port. For example, you have the dry bulk cargo. If you have the rise of the temperature, we can predict this rise of temperature and send to fire departments that something will happen. We can use the drones. We are trying to. We will through the use cases. We will use drones to have the general view of the terminals and which can use the 5G network for to operate over the terminals. Next slide, please. All data which can be gathered through 5G network will be also exchanged to 5G network and will enhance the level of public service providers by the Port Approach Authority. Next slide. So I think that this is the very important thing regarding our private 5G network, that exchange of data through this private 5G network with the aim of creating accurate and valid information, and their exchange through an electronic exchange system, real-time data exchange will ensure quick reaction and decision making, as well as better coordination and management of resources. So if we remember the beginning of the slides, as a port authority, we have to manage all the port area, and in this port area, we have the lots of public and private and government institutions, which are practically autonomous systems, and we must provide and manage all the security issues regarding the port area and project. Next slide, please. So all data which are collected, they will be easily exchanged to the private G network and can be provided to the public service providers like fire departments, police, customs, ambulance, etc. These mentioned use cases will increase the level of public services provided by the Port Approach Authority. Next slide, please. There are also some specific, next slide, please. Specific objectives like enabling the 5G connectivity for the internet connectivity, improving other public services. But one of the most important things that Port Authority approach by using implementation of 5G network can provide the all necessary information and data regarding the cargo also to the nearest cities. We have the very big impact regarding the health issues which are practically result of the cargo manipulation, and with this network we can provide monitoring of this kind of the cargo. Next slide, please. So basically, you can continue to the next slide, please. You can continue next slide. So basically, we have dashboards like this where we can where we can monitor data and visualize this kind of data. We can detect anomalies through the 5G networks, and we can predict and simulate this kind of operation. So next slide, please. So it is very important to say that the Port Approach, as you already said, is situated in the nearest, is the southeast part of Croatia in Dubrovnik-Neretva County, and it's situated on strategic position along the 5C branch of the 5th Pan-European corridor. So if you see these numbers, next slide, please. Next slide, please. So if you see this number, you see the Port Approach area, and on this area we have many different, as I said, many different private and government port stakeholders, and we have to manage through this R2R 5G private network exchange of this data to all the port stakeholders. Next slide, please. So if you are talking about the smart port, we think that without the modern technology like 5G networks, we cannot be smart port. And we can have lots of the cargo, and we can do lots of the cargo operation, but without the modern technology, without the exchange of information, without the exchange of data and providing this data to all the port stakeholders, I think that we cannot be the smart port. Next slide, please. So, and this comes, and here comes the 5G as a standard, and it's very important to say, as I mentioned already before, that this is the first private 5G network which will be implemented in Croatia, in the ports, and as a standard can be provided to other ports in Croatia and other government bodies for data exchange and information shared to the port stakeholders. It's very important to say that among this project, Port of Ploče Authority is also project partner in another CEF project regarding the cybersecurity. So we are trying to make a link between these two projects so that the 5G equipment and network has to be implemented following results from the other project regarding the cybersecurity. Next slide, please. So this is our related conclusion. And next slide, please. And you can contact us regarding our private 5G project through these addresses on these phones. I think that projects like this can improve our security and exchange information. And especially if we combine it with other projects, we can provide know-how to other project partners, and we can work together of implementing the modern technology in many different use cases. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Darko. That was very clear. We will now move on to our next and last presentation of project. So it will be the 2K project. I hope I pronounced it well, and it will be by Mr. Rudolf Konchak. So leaving the floor now to you.
Yes, thank you very much, Rachel. Yes, that was pronounced correctly. 2K stands for Technical University of Košice in Slovakia. We can follow to the next slide, please. My name is Rudolf Končok. I'm product owner in Slovak Telecom for 5G private networks and IoT solutions, and I would like to present you our project. In this project, we can follow up to the next slide, please. There are 3 partners in our consortium. So Slovak Telecom is a leading partner of this project. We as a Slovak Telecom, we are part of Deutsche Telekom Group, largest telecommunication operator in Europe. And we have 2 partners in this project. As we have mentioned, Technical University in Košice. That's actually one of the biggest technical universities in Slovakia, home to over 10,000 students, 9 faculties. They have more than 700 professors and extensive research and development program that would now include also 5G private. And then we have a third partner, and that's CEF Digital. CEF Digital actually is implementing advanced industry 4.0 solutions in Slovakia for over 30 years. They have done more than 2,000 big projects in optimizing production processes and enhancing data management. So it's a strong consortium that is involved in this project, and we have followed basically the same road as Inga Barisa has shown in her presentation from Riga. So throughout 2023, we have prepared the proposal, then we were in evaluation process, and finally in December of last year, we have signed grant agreement, and we have started in January implementation of this project that would last 36 months. And please, if we can see the short video from the kickoff meeting, actually that we had in January this year from Technical University, so you can have some first-hand impression of our kickoff meeting. Please, if you can, Rachel, play this. Yes, thank you very much. So we can follow up to the next slide, please. Yeah, so this is actually the area of the Technical University in Košice. You can see those dots. Those are the places where the 5G private campus would be installed. So we have actually 8 locations. We would be installing Ericsson EP5G solution with about 20 dots and 1 micro radio, throughout the university campus, as you can see on this slide. So we can please follow to the next slide. And you can here see the scope and timeline of our project. As I've mentioned, it will last for 36 months. We have actually 5 work packages, project management, implementation of the 5G private network. Then we have 2 use cases. We have use case smart logistic that is led by the CEF Digital partner, and then we have smart metering use case that is led by partner Technical University in Košice. And then finally we have communication and stakeholder engagement work package that is led by Slovak Telecom. So we can please follow to the next slide. So what we did already, we have implemented 5G private network at Slovak Technical University. It's actually first such a case, standalone private campus network in our country, in Slovakia. You can see here basically the technical description. We have 23 dots, radio dots. We have a micro radio and Ericsson EP5G solution. Technical University, they have their facility. You can see on the picture. It's actually manufacturing hall, and they are producing high quality materials for aviation, for CERN, for instance, and other industries. And they would use this private 5G for several use cases. And I will mention 2 of the most important use cases. So we can please follow to the next page. Well, here you can see some pictures from the implementations. Implementation took place in May. So everything is done and ready. So the private 5G is deployed. And now we can go to the use cases, please. So the first use case is, as I mentioned, led by CEF Digital partner. It's called Smart Logistic Use Case. And actually in this use case, we would implement a real-time location system, RTLS, in manufacturing environment. This would have higher added value to the final products that are needed for aviation, space, energy sectors. Actually, what we would do, we would have possibility by this solution to have end-to-end material flow monitoring, also tool and equipment track, management, production logistics, and we will be able to assure the product quality through the whole process of manufacturing equipment. So this is the use case smart manufacturing, and please, if we can go to the next slide. And the second use case that is led actually by the university itself is smart metering use case. In this use case, we would develop 5G smart metering platform that would have capability of processing different information sources in very high density, with the goal of real-time analytics actually on top of the data that would be collected. So the goal is to have accurate insights into the energy utilization and the efficiency. We would have implemented throughout the university campus this effective energy management. We would better understand campus space utilization and in-depth energy consumption analytics. So the aim is, to contribute to the reduction of carbon footprint, utilize also the machine learning algorithms for more effective communication within the 5G private network. So this is our second use case. And please, if we can go to the, well, that's actually the last one. So we would have some space for Q&A. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I hope this was the correct last slide and that we didn't miss any other. Now, as was announced in the beginning, we'll have a Q&A session. So I will try to allocate, the questions to the right person. If it's not the case, then reallocate to yourself. So Stephanie, during your panel, there were a few questions asked. So I will start with the first one, which is this one. What about the deployment of post-quantum cryptography in 5G? Can someone from the panel answer this one?
Elena, maybe if you have something. Otherwise, we actually are finalizing the draft of a quantum computing report. Maybe a few words. Quantum computing is very, very early stage. And for now, we don't see it, let's say, unlocking the keys that easily at first. And also, as any new technology is very expensive, so time to get to scale to have enough keys to do the job at low price will still be a challenge in the short term. Let's say we have a 5-year time to up the level of security, but Elena might have more.
Yes, Elena, if you want to complement. Is she still connected?
No, sorry.
No, okay. Then we'll leave it at this unless you, Stephanie, want to add something to what you just said. No, we leave it here. I just want to add that there will be a Connect University session in September exactly on post-quantum cryptography. So make sure that you follow the group, the Connect University group on the Proterium platform to stay informed. Now another question that might be for the panel, the panelists, Stephanie. So given the constant rise of populism in Europe, could the involvement of citizens become a prerequisite when designing the 5G use cases?
Maybe Stefan would be a good fit to reply.
Yeah. In fact, in all the scenario, we need to involve all the citizens, and that's a key, a key factor for success. If you want to implement a new technology of a new way of, like Rolf said this afternoon, a new way of working, new way of going to school, to study, work. You need to accompany all the citizens to that kind of technologies or new way of technologies. For now, 5G, we need to implement the use cases, and that's a very important point of view, and not only talking about technologies. We already said that this afternoon.
If I can add, we were talking earlier in the panel about having a human-centric approach. So it is a citizen-centric approach. It has been, and not to reveal too much, but at IDAT we're also involved in the Commission's EXA-X2 project defining 6G. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, is kind of a standard where you really have the user at the center of the technology, and not not at the expense of the technology, but for the technology. On societal matter, maybe you will also have something to add.
Well, in addition to what you just said, I think you should also, let's say, in direct response to populism, consider the methods that you use to reach out to the population at large. If you consider that in the city where I live, in Rotterdam, a significant part of the population is still low literate, I think you need to consider, let's say, alternative approaches to reach out to them and to talk about things like 5G. Because if you, let's say, just send them a letter or organize an information meeting somewhere in the town hall or a similar building, it is especially those groups of the population that you will not reach using the traditional methods of communication. And it is exactly, especially those groups that you would like to inform about what is going on.
All right, thank you so much for this quite complete answer. I'll move on to the third question now, which could be open to anyone from this session today. So what's your view on the fact that geopolitical issues can influence which vendors are allowed to supply 5G equipment, affecting the deployment process? Anyone wants to take this one? I can repeat if necessary.
I think that's really a very tricky question, because a few years ago, you would have told us about geopolitics in technology. We would have said, what? It's about technical stuff. It's about a solution. It's about solving problems with technology. It's not about geopolitical alliances and everything. I understand that the topic is very touchy, and to not name them, it's about two opposing blocks, let's say, and how you see data sharing and data processing. I think that's what's mostly at the center of this question, more than who is deploying the technologies, what they will do with the data. From a very technological standpoint, without geopolitics, for having analyzed the solution of all the vendors from every country, some are very advanced and very operational and very good. The geopolitics is very a question for the ones. Really, it's a political matter. Everything about technology should not be involved in politics. That's really a political question. So I don't know if any of us experts in technology can really answer your question.
Thank you. So if no one else wants to intervene, then we can move on to the fourth question.
Sorry. Can I?
Yeah.
So regarding the question, in the view of the Port Approach Authority, we have to mention that we are, regarding the cybersecurity laws and regarding the NIS2 directive, which have to be implemented in European Union, we are the key and key stakeholder and the key user and the critical user, which have to provide the implementation of anyhow equipment from the European Union. And I think that if you remember my presentation, we have provided, we are the partners in two projects within the CEF regarding the cybersecurity and regarding the private 5G network, and the impact of the result of the cybersecurity project. We will be the inputs probably, and I'm 100% inputs for the implementation of the equipment for the for the private 5G network. So basically, in our cases, I think that this issue will be mandatory as a result of the implementation of the NIS2 directive and cybersecurity laws in Croatia for us.
Thank you for complimenting. Now, two more questions. So the first one, isn't 5G really only the intermediary technology before 6G, which we actually want? Anybody wants to answer this one? Also quite tricky. We have quite a few tricky questions today.
Maybe because I'm on both sides, on the 5G and the 6G project. We can do a lot with 5G that don't need 6G. So it's not an intermediary solution. It's a solution, let's say more a B2B solution that it has been a B2C in the applications that we see, and in the panel with Stefan, Uzul, and with Elena, we've seen how you apply 5G. and those applications don't need 6G to exist. Now there will be others, and we will working on some use cases that can only emerge from 6G and where 5G is not enough. But for all the use cases we presented, 5G is a solution on its own.
Great, thank you for taking this one. And now we have a more targeted last question for Inga. So why does 5G for Lives need 5G to function? Can't 4G streaming be swift enough?
This is a very good question, actually, because at some point when we were discussing when starting the ideas of this 5G project, we got this question a lot, like, what is there for that cannot be done on 5G or even 3G? And some of the people even offered us to buy more motorboats for life-saving and rescue operations. But one thing is clear about the 5G, the data will never be transmitted as fast as it is transmitted with 5G and later with 6G as it will be on 3G or 4G. That's the bottom line. What we are looking for is for the end result where our rescue operations and our police officers, they must be able to react fast based on real-time data. That is the one and only answer, the right answer to give in this situation. Forget about costs, forget about anything. It's how fast you can actually act in a moment of the disaster, emergency, where the health and safety of people are at stake to save lives.
Very good answer. Thank you, Inga. So now we've done the whole round of questions. So I will just give the floor back to Franco Corrino for the conclusion before we wrap up this session. Franco, conclusion and floor to you.
Thank you, Raquel, and thank you also to all the speakers and panelists, and to also to the moderator. Indeed, I mean, I learned quite a lot of things in this session. Of course, I'm glad to see that the projects deliver, that or at least started, they deliver according to their respective timeline. I mean, what we see today in Europe is that 5G in general, or let's say 5G not standalone, is progressing, gradually achieving, the above 95%, and then progress, let's say, in covering all the territory with the 5G not standalone signal in Europe. 5G standalone is instead proceeding a little bit more slowly, and that is what is our preoccupation, to really make sure that we advance in standalone 5G deployment and take up, because that is the only way to break the conundrum that is obviously characterizing this sector, that slow or low revenues, of course, do not allow the stakeholders to invest massively in their infrastructure and support use cases which would otherwise become very specific or very local, and entering a totally new market, a total new business model around connectivity. That's the reason why there is the public intervention, notably with the CEF, but I'm sure there are also other public funds supporting this important transition for the sector. So from what I could listen, I mean, the project we are financing, they really target the right objectives, and with a variety of use cases, a variety of architectural solutions, different ways, of course, of supporting those use cases, in some cases, including with deployment of edge computing close to where the computing power is needed. Of course, all of this is to be put into a wider, let's say, technological, let's say, evolution, that while we are deploying and hopefully taking up 5G standalone, we are not forgetting that research and innovation should not stop. That's the reason why we are massively supporting already research and innovation in 6G. So it's not that the one technology is clashing or competing with the other. It's simply that we need to accompany an evolutionary path, always towards infrastructure that are more efficient and up to the job that they have to deliver and the support that they have to deliver to the upper layers, including the applications. So in all of these, it is absolutely fundamental to involve the stakeholders, all the stakeholders, from the industrial side on one side, but also on the socioeconomic drivers or service of general interest that we mentioned, our self-regulation. Those are from the security and cybersecurity part, because we should never forget that in most cases, these deployments support, underpin very critical applications, which are managed by critical entities, which discontinuity, even for a few hours, could cause a severe consequences or damages, including in economic terms, to the respective communities or entire states. So that's the reason why we adopt a very strict security approach, as reminded by the other speaker, and which is, of course, more regulated and through the directives on NIS2 and the critical entity resilience directive. So all of these is part of a very consistent approach, which holistically really addresses all the different dimensions. And we are very happy that this portfolio of project evolves in that direction. Actually, you have seen only 5. As I said in the slide, there are many other projects. And soon, hopefully soon, we will have even more best practices that can be used and shared by the respective consortia. We have a specific action for facilitating information sharing, knowledge sharing in this respect, because there is no doubt it's also about competence. It's about developing the necessary skills for 5G. And for this type of application, of let's say, deployment of 5G for this or the other use case. So we will certainly continue on this path in the next work program. Within the CEF, still another 3.5 or 4 years ahead of us until the end of the whole CEF digital program. And then in parallel, there is also Horizon Europe. There is also Digital Europe program. With all these programs, there's a funding instrument share in this respect the common goals as they have been identified in the white paper, which I mentioned at the beginning, a common vision, and that's the reason why I think it's important also that we hold sessions like this one on Connect University to share this information. But of course, I mean, we couldn't cover all really the different questions that were there, but of course there is still a possibility, I guess, Rachele, to follow up in writing, or there will be mechanisms for that. So with this, I thank again all the speakers, moderators, and Rachele, I thank you very much, and the colleagues also behind the scene from our director R side to make all of this possible. And of course, I thank quite a lot, more than I think 300 participants that were connected today listening to us. Thank you very much.